Ian Housley and I'm Head of Year 11 at Stimpson Community School. I hope this message finds you and your families well, and thank you for joining us for this event, which we hope will provide you with some information and clarification regarding the exams, the up and coming pre-public examinations, or PPEs as we call them, the importance of Unit 6 and provision for that, revision techniques and support for students that will be available. So as we move forward this year, I'm very confident that our students in Year 11 will do themselves proud. If the effort and drive with which they finished the challenges of last year is anything to go by, our confidence in them is truly justified. This year, working all together, teachers, parents and carers, hopefully our Year 11 will continue to uphold the school values, along with showing high levels of purpose and motivation. Extra effort must not just take place in the classroom, but also at home. It is especially important that students keep up to date with all their work, ensuring they collect any missing subjects, work to complete if they've been away. So regarding the first round of PPEs that the Year 11s did, that they sat before the winter break, as these were their first public examinations they sat in a while, the feedback I received and what I witnessed was absolutely fantastic, especially after not doing or being in that situation for so long. We were so proud with the way that the Year 11 approached these exams, and they all gave them a go. As we move towards the second round of PPEs, which will begin on the 14th of March, hopefully students have been best directed on how to focus and further develop any areas that may need improving, as they may provide strong evidence towards their final grade. With this in mind, the importance of Unit 6 is greater than ever for students to close any gaps in their subjects. It's paramount that students take full advantage of any extra work, and for parents, carers to work with all of us to make sure each student reaches their full potential. Regarding Unit 6, all students are aware of Unit 6 and information has gone out to promote it. We really need students to attend, okay, to give them an extra boost. These sessions are free and are organised by experts who know the exams best, and better than just students revising independently. Also, it saves the need for any private tuition, which I've talked about before, which could be rather costly and up to about £45 an hour. So this year, more than ever, especially after the disruption that all the students have had and have gone through, it is very important that so students could attend this and get that extra support, please. You know, because we just want the best for every student and to give them the best possible chances. Also, a few things I'd like to comment on. We have a breakfast club. I'd like to promote that, which all students get a free breakfast, and that is from 8 till 8:25. They can come in and get a cereal, bagel, hot drink, and then gives them an extra bit of, a bit of keeping them from the warm and a bit of energy to see them through the day. Okay, so please take advantage of that. I'd like to highlight the support that's available, okay, for students. This is big, because we realise that this is a stressful time for our students, and if they need any support, we can hopefully help them or point them in the right direction. So it is so important for students to share. If they're feeling that and they need any support in any way, we will help them and put them in that and point them in that right direction. And also working with you at home, okay? So yeah, please bear that in mind. So really, on behalf of the Year 11 team and Stimpson Community School, I wish you all the best, and looking forward to and hoping that we can continue to work together, supporting every student to be the best possible versions they could be of themselves. So please, if you have any questions, you can contact me at school. Please feel free to do that. And I'm now going to pass you over to Mr. Abbott, who is Assistant Principal and the Raising Standard Leads for Post 16, and he's going to go through more information about exams, revision, and regarding Post 16. So thank you very much, take care, thank you, bye-bye.
Hello. In this briefing I'm going to talk about examination updates for summer 2022, and as expected there's going to be quite a few changes. The first thing we know is that the exam timetables have now been released, and they're going to start on the 16th of May and finish later than normal on the 24th of June, and for those students doing Polish and Portuguese actually on Monday the 27th of June, so a much longer exam period, and that's due to the potential need to isolate due to COVID, although I'll talk about that in a moment, and spreading exams further apart. So no student would need to miss 2 exams of the same subject if they had to isolate for 5 to 10 days, because those exams are going to be spread over a longer period. The other thing we now know is that results days are going to be on Thursday the 18th of August for A-level or level 3, and Thursday the 25th of August for GCSE or level 2, so as in the traditional period, results days will be a week apart. In terms of grading, we also know that results are going to be graded more generously this year, with a midpoint between where we've been with TAGs and CAGs, teacher assessed grades, centre assessed grades, in 2021, and where exams would normally be in 2019. And students still will have the right to appeal, but via a traditional system, rather than applying to the school to do an appeal. This year we'll be back to appealing to the exam board for the paper to be remarked. If students need to resit a paper, they will have the opportunity to do that the following year. So that will be the summer series in 2023, rather than in the November series. But there will be November exams for GCSEs English and Maths only. The slide that you can see now shows what we were told earlier in the year with exam modifications. This was published right at the beginning of the year, and when I did this previous briefing for parents, we spoke about how there were changes already in English literature, geography and history, where they'd been allowed to have optional units, but we were told to expect some advance notice, and I've already spoken to students in assembly about what that means. So if exams were cancelled, we would go to teacher assessed grades, but the government all along has said they are firmly committed to exams this year, and now they've relaxed the remaining COVID regulations, we are fully expecting exams will go ahead. But, and I've said this before, times are certainly changing, and if there were to be another strain of COVID and a need to close schools or to put additional restrictions in place, we would need to go back to TAGs. So the advice has been to conduct exams in exam-like conditions, and we've already done one set of exams in November, December time, and we're going to do another set of exams coming up very shortly. And for those exams, students have to treat them like the real exams, without knowing the questions, with no access to books or other assistance, no access to revision notes. They're done under formal conditions. And the PPEs coming up, and this timetable has been issued to students and parents, will be done under those conditions. And many subjects will be doing a full set of finals, if you like, of actual exams under time conditions to prepare students for the real thing coming up in May and June. In terms of the advance information, that came out on Monday the 7th of February. That wasn't provided for English literature, history or geography, because they have optional subjects at GCSE and therefore don't have to do all of the modules. But for every other subject, we were given this advanced information. We've downloaded all of that and put it onto the school website, kcs.org.uk/information/exams, and parents can have a look at that as well. It may, and I say may, help teachers to focus revision, but in some cases the advanced information has not been very helpful. It's pretty much advised teachers to cover the entire syllabus. But in some areas we now know certain topics won't come up, and so teachers can focus on the topics that definitely will come up rather than those. It may be that teachers now give additional practice on the topics they know are coming up. But remember, we only know the topics, not the exact questions, and students should not be over-reliant upon the advance notice, because it may mean they revise things that, or fail to revise things that are going to come up, and narrowly focus on too small an area of questions. This is some guidance from AQA, and this is on all of the advanced information. Students will be expected to draw upon knowledge, skills and understanding from across the specification when answering what we call synoptic questions. So those are the big overarching questions that require sort of a breadth and depth of knowledge. So if students just revise for narrow advanced information, they may not be able to demonstrate their wider skills on those bigger sort of 25-mark questions. So we still recommend that students revise more broadly and don't just limit their revision to the advanced information. In terms of exams, it is important to say that they are different from what we've had over the last few years. So I'm now particularly talking to parents of Year 13 students who over the last 2 years in Year 11 and Year 12 will have sat CAGs and TAGs. And I do need to explain the differences. And to Year 11 parents, it is important I stress that. So I want to use the analogy of kindergarten cop. There's a bit of a generation divide here because this came out in 1990, so people my age, in their 40s, may remember this film, but some of the students may not. But this is when Arnold Schwarzenegger's cop goes into a nursery school, kindergarten, and starts teaching these children and finds it very difficult. And there's quite a famous scene when he's trying to address to a young girl about the constantly to go to the bathroom. And he says, "There is no bathroom." I'm not going to do an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation. Well, I want to paraphrase him in terms of catch-up day, because for the real exams, there is no catch-up day. Public exams, the real exams, have to take place on the same date and at the same time in every school across the whole of the UK. That's to stop malpractice or cheating and to make sure the process is fair. We've already had some issues during the real exams we did in January where students missed the exams, and when I spoke to the parents said to me, "Well, Mr. Abbott, can they not do it on the catch-up day?" So there does appear to be a bit of a misunderstanding. And so I've addressed this with the students directly, and I need to address it with you as parents. If a student does not attend the exam, they will not have the opportunity to do that exam. They will need to be given special consideration, provided the absence is genuine, but they will not do the exam this year, and it's important we stress that. In terms of exams, they start at set times. At this school, the morning exams will start at 9 o'clock on the dot. The afternoon exams will start at 1:30 p.m. Now that does mean that's not in line with our normal school day, so as we did with the January exams, in the summer we will be collapsing Unit 4 so students can take an earlier lunch and be lined up for 1:15 ready to start on time. And it's important students realise these start times are not going to be moved. They will take place at those times. We also do not have study leave at Kent Stimpson. This is a long-standing tradition now. We believe the best place to revise is in lessons with the subject specialists, and so students will attend lessons until they've completed every exam in that subject. The other issue with real exams, and the fact that they take place at certain times across the country, is there may be clashes. And this year, 21 students across the sixth form and Year 11 will have clashes. So to give two examples, in the sixth form, AS Business Studies and Unit 2 Criminology have a clash on the 20th of May. The 9 o'clock exam will take place for both subjects. Or for a GCSE example, Media Studies Paper 2 and Italian Writing both take place on the 14th of June at 1:30. So there are some particular rules students need to understand if there's a clash. If the exams in total, so that's both exams added up together, are 3 hours or less, students will only have a 20-minute break. The guidance on the screen here is from the JCQ, the Joint Council for Qualifications document, and it's a national guideline, so we can't change this, we must stick to it. They have a break of no more than 20 minutes taking place under exam conditions in the exam room. So they will do the first exam, they will have a chance to go to the toilet, have a quick bite to eat or a drink of water, but then they go straight into the second exam. We have had some students ask if they were allowed to do revision during that time or to talk to other people. I'm afraid not. Those exams have to be done under formal conditions, including the supervised 20-minute break. Okay, in terms of Year 13 students, there are some students in the sixth form, I think there's one example in Year 12 as well, where we have exams which are more than 3 hours in total. So if it was a 2-hour A-level exam followed by a 2.5-hour exam, clearly we're talking 4.5 hours of exams there. Those students have a different arrangement. They can do the second exam outside of the the normal period, so they could do the one paper at 1:30 in the afternoon when everybody else would be doing it, but do the clash paper at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now that means they will have had access to that paper before other people in the school and other people across the country. So there are very strict rules about what happens during that period. After they've done their morning exam, they will be kept under very strict supervision, where they'll have a personal invigilator, making sure they're not coming into contact with anybody else. They won't have access to school staff, so they can't be coached as it says on the guidelines. They won't have access to their phone or the internet, so they can't divulge information about what they've seen on the paper to other candidates across the country. They will be able to revise for the exam they've got in the second session in the afternoon if they've done one in the morning, but that will be from paper notes only. They won't have access to the computer or their mobile phone, so they can't obviously provide access to the paper information to other students. So that is an important information about clashes, and students will need obviously to follow those rules. In terms of exam start times, I've said they have to have very strict times, and therefore it is vital students are on time. For exam days, they should be getting here early, and what we will aim to do, and what we've done in the past for exams, is provide a free breakfast, pre-exam booster sessions on the morning of the exam. So it will be beneficial to students to get here early to attend those. But if they're late, and I'm talking here turning up 9:05, 10:09, the exam will have started. And it will be disruptive for the student doing the exam, but also other students already in the exam hall, to have somebody walking in late. And if they're too late, they could miss it entirely. So for a 2-hour exam, we have an hour window in order to get the students into that exam, and if they are later than that, then they won't be allowed to go in. And for shorter exams, the window is even smaller. Mrs. Blackledge, the attendance officer, and I will try and get students into school if they're not here. We'll take a register, we'll make phone calls, and if possible, we'll collect students and bring them in. But I can't guarantee we'll be able to get every student in, and if students live a longer way, then we may not be able to get them in time. So it is vital that students know when their exams are, and obviously make sure they're in time. And as parents, I urge you to get a copy of the exam timetable for the summer, put it on your fridge, make sure you refer to it the day before, what exams have they got, so that students are not late or miss the exams. Another key rule, and this is obviously something that students who have sat CAGs and TAGs over the last couple of years may have forgotten, is that if you miss the exam, it can only be for an exceptional circumstance. So I've already mentioned there is no catch-up day, but students who miss the exam and don't have a genuine reason, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, will be given a U grade. They will fail that paper, and that will have a major impact. If it's 3 papers across the exams, they could have lost a third of the marks by missing that one exam. So if they can't attend the exam, we need to apply for special consideration, and the rules for that are very clear. It is a temporary illness, temporary injury, or some other event outside of the candidate's control, for example a bereavement, at the time of the assessment, and we have to provide evidence to the exam of what that circumstance is. It does have to require medical evidence, so this can't be a handwritten parental note or a call to the school office. It's got to be evidence from a medical practitioner, and Mrs. Leach has to provide the evidence attached to the special consideration request that she submits to the exam board. So you will need a doctor to be able to verify that you were too unwell to attend the exam on the day. This is the form that Mrs. Leach will have to provide, and I'm just going to blow up the section that says current medical or psychological evidence is attached. And if she says no to that and isn't able to attach anything, it's highly unlikely you'll be given a grade for that examination. We need to be able to verify it is a legitimate absence. So some of the reasons that would not be classed as legitimate reasons for missing an exam will be a light cold, and I'll talk about what that may mean in terms of COVID in a moment, a minor headache, period pain. In the past, students have not attended exams for those reasons and have been given a U grade for the exam because the exam board have not accepted that was a valid reason. They would argue that students should take a paracetamol and still attend the exam. We could still then provide information to the exam board to say the student had been unwell and hadn't been able to perform at their best, and they may consider that. But if they missed the exam entirely and were not able to provide medical evidence from a GP or a doctor in A&E, it would avoid the risk of the student obviously be given a U grade. So I must stress to parents that if your child is not able to come into the exam, you must take them to the doctor, and if the doctor says they won't see them, be prepared to take them to A&E to get some verification, some authentication that they could not do the exam. Now, in terms of COVID, that was the guidance we were given at the beginning of the year, so we applied this for our November and January exams. Candidates with symptoms should stay at home and arrange to have a test to see if they have COVID, and of course we provided a large number of special consideration requests to the exam board for students who had COVID. But you will have seen from the news, I'm sure, that the COVID isolation rules could have been scrapped, and actually since that guidance came out, they have been scrapped. On Monday the 21st of February, the Prime Minister announced the removal of those measures put in place during the COVID pandemic, and that means by law there is no longer a requirement to self-isolate if you have COVID. But this information here says, should parents send their children to school if they think they have COVID, and it says the public health advice is anyone with the main COVID symptoms should order a test and advise to stay at home. So this prevents a potential difficulty. We will not be issuing tests in schools anymore. The government have said they would not be providing us with tests. So many students may never know if they have COVID or not. And I've already said, if you have a mild cold, and for many children, COVID is either asymptomatic with no symptoms whatsoever, or a very, very mild symptoms, then the advice is you come in and you do the exam. But the counter argument is that if you know you have COVID, you should still isolate. And then you would need to provide medical evidence, which I expect would have to be a PCR test, to provide evidence to the exam board you couldn't do the exam that day. So we are still in a very difficult position. But my advice is if you can do the exam and you are well enough to do so, you come in and do the exam. Because you have had 5 years, or in the case of the sixth form, 7 years of preparing for these qualifications, and to risk your qualification, if there was a chance you could have done the exam, I think would rather be something we should try and avoid. The other key rule is about behaviour, and I must stress the importance of students following all of the rules set by the exam board. These are not school rules, these are exam board rules. And Mrs. Leach has issued those to students, and we're going to push those out to parents as well. They are on the school website. But standard rules, I'm sure parents remember these when they did their own exams. No talking, no turning around, only taking certain things into the exam hall. Those rules have not changed for many, many years, certainly since when I was at school. And it's important students follow those. If a student does break the rules, so is seen by the invigilator turning around or communicating with another candidate, they could be giving a U grade for that exam. We do have to report any instances of malpractice, and an exam board could cancel all of their exams for that board. So if you do several exams with exam board AQA could say that you've cheated in one exam and therefore lose your qualifications for all of the exam boards. It is that serious. So please make sure you stress the rules to your children, your young people, so that they follow those rules in the summer. And finally, for post-16 students, we ask them to wear a lanyard, just as members of staff do, one of these that they wear with them every single day. That's a key part of our school safety guarding procedures to keep the school safe. Post-16 students don't wear a uniform, so it's a lanyard which allows us to know who they are. But for exams, the lanyard is the student's ID. The invigilators who come into school are not members of school staff permanently. They don't know the students who are doing the exams, and so we need to make sure we have a system in place. Just as when you do a driving test, you're asked to show ID, or when you go to do any other sort of formal assessment outside of schools, you have to show ID. In a school, the lanyard is your sixth form ID, and that will be on your desk in the exam room, so the invigilator knows that the person sitting the exam is the person who's obviously been entered for the exam. Therefore, a post-16 student who doesn't have their lanyard risks being turned away from the exam. We certainly don't want to do that, but it is something that we have to be prepared for. Okay, there's been a lot of information given to you there. I'm sure there's going to be some questions, so we're going to stay online now for a live Q&A session, hopefully to answer those questions for you.
Good evening and welcome to the Q&A part of this event. I'm Ian Housley, Head of Year 11, and I'm joined by Kevin Abbott, who's Raising Standards Leader for Post-16 and Assistant Principal. So for the next part of this event, we're just inviting you to post any questions regarding up-and-coming exams or anything regarding exams, and we will do our best to answer and reassure you. We've had an open link. We've had a few questions come through in advance, so we'll start off with these. So initially, are the up and coming PPEs or examinations, are they official? That's what we've been asked. So, Mr. Abbott?
Yeah, they are official in the sense that they are formal school exams. But unlike previous years where they would have been used as part of the teacher assessed grades or the centre assessed grades to count some tags, they won't necessarily be used to predict your grade unless we need to go to plan B. So I don't expect schools have to be closed again or there need to be a cancellation of exams, but that's one of the reasons why they are official, because they could still be used in that case. But if a student did need to isolate, we've still got this ambiguity about the COVID situation, then the PPE result could still be used towards a predicted grade. So my advice is to treat them as unofficial, even though they won't necessarily go towards the grades if real exams go ahead.
Okay, brilliant. I've received another question here regarding Year 11 and the Unit 6 provision that's on every night. Is it compulsory? No, it's not officially compulsory, but I'd say that it is, as I mentioned before, like paramount that students attend, because this is such an extra boost for students to really be taught by experts who know exams inside out and can really help and support students. So every night there is provision there for every subject, especially with the round of exams that are coming up next week. On the 14th they start. It'd be sort of silly not to get that, and it's there, and it's, as I said, for experts, and can really give our students a boost. So I'd really urge you and recommend to push that with students, definitely.
Just on Unit 6, sir, and this is hot off the press, but we have managed to secure some funding, so we're going to offer an incentive scheme for students attending Unit 6 to reward those students who are doing so and continue to do so. So we've got 66 Year 11s coming to this year's prom, and what we're going to be able to do is offer the chance for Year 11 to gain up to £20 off their prom ticket. So every time they attend 5 Unit 6 sessions in a subject, and they can bank ones they've already attended from when they began in November, then they'll be given a prom sticker, and that's going to be worth £2. So if they collect 10 of those stickers, that'll be £20 off the value of the prom. So a nice little reward that we'll be launching this week, and that will run up until the prom money has to be paid later on in the term.
Brilliant. That sounds like a positive there. I've got one thing. Do students receive study leave?
Yeah, I mentioned that as part of the briefing, but no, they don't. And the reason for that is where schools have tried study leave, what we find is students don't always use the time productively. So I know there are some city schools where they do still use study leave, but when we've looked at that in the past at Ken Stimpson, the students haven't used the time as well as we'd hoped. So we feel the best way of studying is in front of the qualified teacher, where the teacher's going to be guiding them through the topics. And of course, now we know what those advanced topics are, the teachers will be focused on those in the lessons. So right up until you've done the last exam in your subject, you do keep continuing lessons in those subjects. No study leave. What have I got here, sir? What if a doctor won't see me? I suspect that relates into the question I was relating to COVID. I suppose it relates to other illnesses as well. But yeah, I have asked for you to achieve a doctor's note if the exams officer is going to need to put a special consideration request in. And we have seen, obviously, due to the pandemic, doctors doing telephone consultations rather than seeing you. That will be fine, provided they're able to provide a doctor's letter, because we will need to attach that doctor's letter to the exam board. So if your doctor won't see you, you need to make sure they're still able to provide that letter. And I would be insisting that if I'm going to need to be signed off for several exams, maybe a whole week, I'd want a doctor to see me, because that will stand up better. So I'd be phoning the doctor back and saying, I insist that you see me. They still are pressurised by the government to see patients, even though some are still trying to do just the telephone consultations.
Mm.
What have we got at this housing? Is there a revision week at Easter? And if so, what days and when we find out the timetable?
That's being finalised now, I believe, regarding that, and then what subjects are offering what and when to come in.
So yeah, Mr. Hussain is currently working on that programme. I know he's been consulting with the teachers about which subjects are running sessions at Easter. So there will be, but it's not been published yet. But certainly within the next couple of weeks, that information will be shared. And it will certainly be for Year 11, and there may be some post-16 revision sessions on that as well. It very much depends upon what the students are asking for. So if there's an appetite for it, our staff are prepared to deliver those sessions.
Or Unit 6.
And of course Unit 6, which exists for Year 11 and for some post-16 subjects as well. We've got a question on what is the last school date for Year 11. So the last exam for most students will be the physics exam on Thursday the 23rd of June. The exam timetable is on the exam section of the school website, so you can go on there if you want to have some advance notice of when the exams are. Each student will be given a personalised exams timetable after Easter, showing when their individual exams are. For some students who are doing exams in Polish and Portuguese, there may be an exam on the Monday the 27th of June. And anybody coming back to our sixth form, been offered a place in the sixth form, post-16 induction is the 27th of June until the day of the prom, the 6th of July. So I would say the sort of final day for anybody coming back to the sixth form will be the 6th of July. In terms of booking holidays, I suppose that would be the day I'd be trying to avoid, anything up until that point there. What else have we got? Anything else?
That's on there. I'm just going to say about urging people to look at the website. There's a wealth of information on there, and it's always evolving as well for both post 16 and year 11. So definitely keep your eyes on that with the school website.
Yeah, and we are going to be doing some further updates to the post 16 section, because we realised when we looked at the year 11 section last week, there's a number of helpful website links now for year 11, and so we've asked post 16 tutors, where possible, to provide a similar service for post 16 students. So the website continues to have further updates on an ongoing basis. Keep checking it out, please. Okay. Any other questions just coming through? Can I remind parents that obviously if there are any questions we haven't answered today, either in the video or this live Q&A section, please do send them in to us and we'll get those put onto the website as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, hopefully that's been useful for this evening. So if there's any questions, do send them in. But thank you for your time, and do check out the other resources on the website. There's some particularly good stuff about revision going up on there as well, and the website links we discussed.
Thank you very much.